For today, we are going to learn about the upper limb. So, upper limb, as you all know, we have the axilla part and the pectoral region, which consists pectoris major, pectoris minor. So, first we'll talk about the deltoid. Deltoid, it has posterior fibers and anterior fibers and lateral fibers. Posterior fibers, they join in, they insert to the spine of the scapula. They insert into the spine of the scapula lower lip, because we know the trapezius inserts into the upper lip. So the deltoid posterior fibers insert in to the lower lip of the spine of the scapula. And we have the lateral part as well that will insert into the deltoid tubercle, tuberosity, and the anterior part to the clavicle. So in the upper limb, we have humerus. Humerus is a bone that is connected with the glenoid cavity, and it is the longest bone in the upper limb. In the upper limb, the longest bone is humerus. So in this humerus, the upper end is rounded to form the head. So the upper end is rounded to form the head. And we have two tubercles, greater tubercle and the lesser tubercle. The lesser tubercle is in the anterior part, while the greater tubercle is in the posterior part. So the lesser tubercle, this projects from the upper end, and this is limited laterally by the interbular sulcus, or we can say the basipital groove. So we have this deltoid tuberosity, and the lower end is expanded from side to side, and it has the medial epicondyle. So it has capitulum, and then the trochlea. This part is for the radius, while this part is for ulna. So upper end, this head is directed medially, backwards and upwards. This head articulates with the glenoid cavity of the scapula. So this, when it articulates, it forms the shoulder joint. It articulates with the glenoid cavity to form the shoulder joint. So head is actually 1/3 of a spear. So we have this pectoris, major muscle, pectoralis, major muscle. There's a spelling mistake here. It should be pectoralis. And it is in the anterior side. It is inserted in to the lateral part of the basipital groove. And we have deltoid, the anterior fibers. And this is the lateral fibers, which is why we call deltoid as a multipinnate muscle. And we have in between, we have the deltopectoral groove. And then, if we look at the transverse section of the axilla, we can see the humerus. So, in a transverse section, in order to identify which part is anterior and which part is posterior, we have to think about thickness. So first you have to find the humerus, and then you have to go with the size of the axillary fold. So anterior one is thinner. Why is that? The posterior one has subcapularis, infraspinatus, those two muscles, while the anterior part has the pectoralis major. So the anterior part is thin compared to the posterior part. So we can see the subcapularis muscle here that is connected to the costal side, or the costal side actually. It is connected the subcapularis fossa and the infraspinatus inferior part, and above we have supraspinatus. So this is in the medial side of the scapula, and this is the posterior side. Yeah. So here you can see we have this thick fold which is the posterior side. So this part is the anterior side. So in this anterior side we have axillary vessels, cords, and also cords of the brachial plexus. And then when we talk about the brachial plexus, we know it has roots C5, C6, C7, C8, T1 like this. C5 and C6 forms one trunk, which is superior, this is middle, and this is inferior, and then it becomes divisions likewise. So we have this C5 and C6 here, which combines to form the upper trunk. And C7 is the middle one, and the lower trunk is the combination of C8 and T1. And then this one, the upper trunk, forms the lateral cord. So from the lateral cord, the lateral pectoral nerve is originated. So you can see the lateral pectoral nerve is going to the pectoralis major. And then the lateral root of the median nerve is here, and it joins with the median root of the medial cord to form the median nerve. And then in this median, so the posterior one is the posterior cord which is underneath, and then this medial cord is here. Hope you can see. So the lateral pectoral nerve comes first, and then before that you can see the phrenic nerve. So this is in front of the scalenus muscle. So the brachial plexus is, this goes in between the two scalenus muscle, scalenus medius and scalenus anterior. So the roots of the brachial plexus arise from this. And then the lateral pectoral nerve is there, and the upper subscapular nerve that provide to the subcapularis. And then we can see the long thoracic nerve which goes from C6, C5, C7. So it supplies the serratus anterior. So it is in the lateral part of the rib cage. And then we have lower subscapular nerve. This lower subscapular nerve provides teres major as well, not only subcapularis. This is the subcapularis, as you can see. So this one provides subcapularis, and also the teres major. And then you can see the latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi is twisted to join to the basipital groove, the flow of the basipital groove into tubular sulcus. So laid between two majors, we see latissimus dorsi is, they are connected to the flow of the tubular sulcus. And the teres major is there when we remove the subcapularis. So it is posterior side. And then the musculocutaneous nerve. This musculocutaneous nerve pierces the coracobrachialis. So the coracobrachialis muscle is this. It starts from, the origin is from the coracoid process. And then this musculocutaneous nerve enters the anterior compartment between the biceps and brachialis. And then we have the medial nerve formed with the lateral part and the median part. And then we got the axillary nerve. Ciliary nerve, musculocutaneous nerve come from the lateral. So the axillary nerve goes through the quadrangular space with the posterior circumflex humeral vessel. So from the lateral cord, we got axillary and musculocutaneous. And then from medial, we got the median No, sorry, not the. My bad. What comes from the lateral part? So, in the lateral part, lateral cord, we got axillary nerve and the radial nerve, not the muscular genes. Yeah. So the axillary nerve is there, coming from the posterior one. So the posterior cord, there's a way that you can remember the ulna. So the upper subcapularis, lower subcapularis, nerve to latissimus dorsi, or we call this as thoracodorsal nerve, axillary nerve, radial nerve comes from the posterior cord. So the posterior cord, the radial nerve comes, and then the axillary nerve comes from the posterior cord. From the lateral cord, the musculocutaneous and the lateral part of the median nerve. And then from the medial nerve, ulna, and the lateral part of the medial part of the medial. So the medial root of the medial nerve comes from the medial cord. And then, so you can remember this ulna. So the posterior one gives rise to axillary and radial. Lateral one gives rise to musculocutaneous and lateral cord of the median nerve, while the medial from or medial cord gives medial part of the medial nerve and then ulna nerve. Yes. And then that is about the brachial plexus. We can go to the